Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare जय श्री श्री राधा श्याम सुंदर की जय श्री श्री कृष्ण बलराम की जय श्री श्री गौरनिताय की जय श्री प्रभुपाद की जय श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय Hare Krishna. So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 5, text 4. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sāṅkhya-yogau pṛthag bālāḥ pravadanti na paṇḍitāḥ ekam āsthitaḥ samyag ubhayor vindate phalam. Sāṅkhya-yogau pṛthag bālāḥ pravadanti na paṇḍitāḥ ekam āsthitaḥ samyag ubhayor vindate phalam. Sāṅkhya-yogau pṛthag bālāḥ pravadanti na paṇḍitāḥ ekam āsthitaḥ samyag ubhayor vindate phalam. Word by word translation. Sāṅkhya, analytical study of the material world. Yogau, work in devotional service. Pṛthag, different. Bālāḥ, the less intelligent. Pravadanti, say, na, never. Paṇḍitāḥ, the learned. Ekam, in one. Api, even. Āsthitaḥ, being situated. Samyag, complete. Ubhayor, of both. Vindate, enjoys. Phalam, the result. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Only the ignorant speak of devotional service, karma yoga, as being different from the analytical study of the material world, Sāṅkhya. Those who are actually learned say that he who applies himself well to one of these paths achieves the results of both. Purport. The aim of the analytical study of the material world is to find the soul of existence. The soul of the material world is Vishnu, or the super soul. Devotional service to the Lord entails service to the super soul. One process is to find the root of the tree, and the other is to water the root. The real student of Sankhya philosophy finds the root of the material world, Vishnu, and then in perfect knowledge engages himself in the service of the Lord. Therefore, in a sense, there is no difference between the two, because the aim of both is Vishnu. Those who do not know the ultimate end say that the purposes of Sankhya and Karma Yoga are not the same, but one who is learned knows the unifying aim in these different processes. So let us chant the Mangalacharan prayers. Om Ajnanatirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So today we are reading from chapter 5, the chapter entitled as Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness. And the chapter started with a question that Arjuna asked, similar to the question that he asked in chapter 3, that at some time Krishna is stressing on renouncing the work, that is not engaging in fruitive activities, and at other time he stresses on engaging in the activities for the Lord. So that appears to be contradictory. In fact, it is not. That's what will be clarified today. But it appears to an ordinary person who is not very intelligent, it appears as though it's conflicting. Because on one hand, Krishna is asking to not engage in fruitive activities. But at the same time, he is asking Arjuna to engage in many activities, but do it for the pleasure of Krishna or for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. So on one side, engaging in activities, on the other side, not engaging in activities, this appears contradictory. So one is not engaging in activities is like renouncing the activities, which is called sannyas. And the engaging in activities is like connecting engaging in activities for Krishna, that is connecting with Krishna. So that is called yoga here. So, so that is karma yoga. So one is karma sannyas and one is karma yoga. So Arjuna started this chapter with this question, that what in fact you want me to do? What is good for me? What is shreyas? So Krishna clarifies that, and then he comes here and he says that so his first explanation is that both of them, the renounced order of life as well as the engaging in activities for Krishna, karma yoga, both are beneficial and both will lead to liberation. But out of the two, karma yoga is better. Karma yoga vishishyate. And then he talks about the person who is not having any mundane desire, na dveshti na kankshati, who is beyond the dualities of the world. Even though that person may engage in so many activities, but that person is called nitya sannyasi, means eternally renounced, constantly renounced, for perfectly, permanently, eternally renounced. And perfect example is Keshwar Prabhu, who engaged in so many activities that even ordinary mundane people can't engage in. The number of literature, the amount of literature that Keshwar Prabhu has written, late number of letters, the conversations, the classes, the meetings, and all the management of worldwide ISKCON society. And the same mood is being followed by his disciples and followers, where all devotees throughout the world, they are engaged in so many activities. But the main thing is, the attitude is not to get some material benefit out of these activities. Rather, these activities are meant to please Krishna and spread the message of Krishna to the world. So if that is the purpose, then that person, even though engaged in so many activities, is considered perfectly renounced. This is the real meaning of renunciation. So renunciation is of various types. One is, of course, just renouncing the activities and taking sannyas. So one gets addressed as a sannyasi and gets a name and wears a certain kind of dress. So that's the external appearance of a sannyasi. But that's not sufficient. It's the internal consciousness that makes a person perfectly renounced, even though externally one may not have taken sannyas. Even though a person may externally be in their householder life or a brahmachari life or a woman or old man, doesn't matter. But if he has no desire for any material gain and all the time engaged in service of Krishna, then that person is to be considered as nitya sannyasi, perfectly renounced. That's what Krishna has told in the verse before. And in this verse today, he's saying Sāṅkhya and Yoga. These are the two things. So Sāṅkhya-yogau, there is a dual tense, dual form here. Like in Sanskrit, we have, like English, we have singular and plural. But in Sanskrit, we also have something in between, which indicates two. Not just one and many, but one, two, and many. So Sāṅkhya-yogau, it's talking about two things. So it's not just Sāṅkhya yoga, but Sāṅkhya yoga and Karma yoga, both. So Sāṅkhya as well as yoga. So two things. Pṛthag means different or separate. So pravadanti means those who consider or those who speak. So those who think like this, that the Sāṅkhya and yoga, means Sāṅkhya yoga and Karma yoga, these are separate or two different things. They are not very intelligent. Bālāḥ. Bālāḥ means children. Bālāḥ. So children are usually not very intelligent and they can't understand the deep aspect of the Sankhya-yoga and Karma-yoga. Because children may and the internal mood behind it. They're not that intelligent to look so deep into the things. So just like children's consciousness is not very evolved, similarly, those people who consider that Sankhya and Yoga, they are different, their consciousness is also, their understanding is also like children. And they are not very intelligent. That's what Krishna is telling. Those who are intelligent, they will not speak like this. And then he says, ekam api āsthitaḥ, even though situated in just one of these, either Sankhya or Karma, Sankhya Yoga or Karma Yoga, if one perfectly follows either of the paths, samyag perfectly follows, ubhayor vindate phalam, means one will get the benefit of both. Because actually, both paths, they are meant for achieving the same goal. The destination is the same, but the process is different. That's what he is telling. And in this world, we find there are many material situations also where for the same goal, people may try different things in different ways to get there. So, and Srila Prabhupada has given an example in the purport that Sankhya Yoga is basically trying to find the source of everything through analytical study. We study the matter and trying to find the source of matter, from where everything has originated, and how this matter is different from spirit, how the soul is different from matter, and what is the source of both. Trying to analyze these things in detail through knowledge, and then come up with the trace out what the source is. That's what the purpose of Sankhya Yoga is, finding the root of everything. And Karma Yoga or Bhakti Yoga is where the source is known, and then we engage in the service of the source. We understand what is our duty towards the source, and we engage in that service. So ultimately, the purpose is same, to trace out what lies beyond this material world. So if so Sankhya Yoga, Srila Prabhupada says, like trying to find out the root of the tree, and Karma Yoga is like watering the root of the tree. So if someone is trying to find out how, someone is analyzing a tree. Suppose someone goes and looks at a plant and sees that this plant is growing. New leaves are coming, flowers are coming, fruits are coming. They look healthy and strong and green. Where is this getting its energy from? The person does the analysis and sees that, oh, is it directly getting from the air or from where? And then after all the analysis, finds out that, oh, it's actually getting it from the root. From the root, it absorbs water, the various nutrients, the soil, and so many other chemicals, and that nourishes the plant and it grows. So if a person is intelligent to find the root, then what will he do after he has found the root? It's naturally he will water the root. It's not that he found the root and then just leaves the plant. So if a person has worked hard enough to find the root, then once he has found the root, it's natural to start watering the root. Similarly, through Sankhya Yoga, if one has finally traced out that the soul is different from the body, and the soul is part of the super soul, and everything comes from Super Soul, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, then what will a person do who has found this? Naturally, he will engage in the service of the Super Soul. Just like if we know, once we know that it's everything, the plant gets its nourishment from the root, then I will naturally water the root. So these two are not different things, it's connected. So similarly, Sāṅkhya-yogau and Karma-yoga, they are connected and they are meant for one purpose. We see in Bhagavad Gita that Krishna uses various nomenclatures, various terminologies to say the same thing. And all these different yoga processes, they are not for achieving some different goals. Ultimately, the purpose is one. We hear the words like this. We hear words Sāṅkhya-yoga, Buddhi-yoga, Jnana-yoga, Dhyana-yoga, Ashtanga-yoga, Raja-yoga, and then of course Bhakti-yoga. All these different words we come across in Bhagavad Gita in different chapters and different shlokas. But we should understand that the purpose of all these yoga processes is same. Is ultimately it's a yoga process. Yoga means to connect, to establish our relationship with the absolute truth. So that is the purpose of yoga, and that's the purpose of all the yogas. So all the yogas ultimately they are meant to bring a person to the point where one is clear about this understanding that we are different from the body, we are soul, and we are part of the super soul, and the absolute truth is actually a person, and it's our constitutional position to serve the supreme person. This is the purpose of all the yogas. There's no difference. But then the question comes then why there are so many names and so many terminologies and why there is a variation in the process. Like the Ashtanga yogis, they have follow altogether a different process. And the Jnana yogis, they have different process. And Bhakti yoga, we have a different process. This is because there are people with different levels of consciousness. And everyone is not in a position to understand directly the topmost Bhakti yoga, the devotional service. If devotional service is explained to all the people, then most of the people in the world will not be able to get it. They just do not have enough security. Their state of the heart is not suitable at this time to accept it. There will be some who will accept, but there are so many who will not. Now, Krishna wants all the souls to grow in their consciousness, to move from where they are, like they're at this level, so there should be some arrangement to take them from here to here. So there are some people who like to do analysis and inquire and question, and oh, this is made up of this is made up of this. Like in modern science, what the scientists are doing, they are breaking down our material elements and analyzing it. Initially, when they started, they thought, oh, everything is made up of atoms and molecules. And then they further found that, no, atoms are made up of electrons, protons, and neutrons. Then they later found, oh, electrons are also made up of so many smaller particles, and neutrons are also made up of so many smaller particles. And this way, this analysis has continued, and they have come up with so many smaller particles than electrons nowadays. And even then, they even realize that they have not reached the absolute bottom and from where it's unbreakable, because they can't reach. They ultimately at the end they must reach to the absolute truth, Krishna. Krishna is smaller than the smallest, and he is bigger than the biggest. So they can always go down until they reach and we realize. But the point is that Krishna is not something that can be measured by mechanical means, by microscope or any other ways. So they have to enter into a different domain to understand what is absolute truth. So there are, so what I was saying, that there are people who have such tendencies to support them that they can analyze the whole world is made up of 5 gross elements, then there are subtle elements, then there are working senses, then sensory sense objects. So in this way, 5, 5, 5, 5 is 20, and then mind, intelligence, and ego, and then the false consciousness, that's 24. So that makes it pradhana, the 24 material elements, and then beyond that is soul, and then beyond that is time, and beyond that is super soul. All this analysis is there in Srimad Bhagavatam, and this is the Sāṅkhya-yogau propounded by Lord Kapila. But the goal of all this is to finally be very clear about what this world is made up of, who we are, and where we come from. And once all that is clear, one will naturally engage. It will be easier for that person to accept the Supreme Lord and start devotional service. So ultimately, the purpose is the same, but then some people may like to go through this path. Some people have tendencies to meditate, follow certain sense-controlling processes, and then Ashtanga-yoga, the whole lot of processes are there. To withdraw the senses from external engagement in the sense objects, and then meditate and ultimately realize the super soul sitting in the heart. So to understand it a little bit better, let us look at an example from the modern education system. Say, suppose there is a whole education system to make a person engineer. This example can be taken for engineer or doctor or lawyer or anything, accountant or anything. So now to make someone engineer, now if I catch hold of a child and then start teaching him what is taught in the engineering institutes directly, he will not be able to understand it. Because first he needs to go through the schooling, where first he needs to learn the some language and some numeracy, some numbers, some counting, and some basic science, basic laws of physics. So all that he learns going through different stages of his schooling, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. Once he has come up to that level, then the engineering courses can be taught to that person. He will understand it. Now, if we look at it, then something was taught at grade 5, something was taught at grade 6. And the purpose of all of this is to make that person an engineer. So the goal is same throughout, but based on the level of the capacity of the child to understand it, there are different courses prescribed. Course for grade 6, course for grade 7, course for grade 8. So those who are not very intelligent, they may think, oh, why there are all these different courses? They are all different educational materials, and they are all different. Person may think like that. This is all different. So in one sense, yes, it's different. Class 6 is different than class 7, is different than class 8. But then what is the purpose of all this? Ultimately to make the person engineer or doctor or lawyer or whatever. Ultimately, the purpose is to give him that engineering education which is given during graduation. That's what makes him an engineer. But then the child is not capable of understanding that unless he has completed his schooling education. Similarly, so many people in the world, they are not ready to understand the process of devotional service. So when they go through properly through Sāṅkhya-yogau or properly through Ashtanga-yoga, properly through other Jnana-yoga, these different processes, then it's expected that if you properly follow, most of the people, they claim to follow, but they do not follow it properly. It's all mixed up. But if they properly follow those processes as mentioned in the scriptures, then they will certainly come to the point where they will understand that Vasudeva Saramiti Samahatma Sudeva. Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanavan Mam Prapadate. Krishna is saying that those who follow the path of knowledge, which is Sāṅkhya-yogau, ultimately what happens? Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanavan Mam Prapadate. They surrender to Krishna at the end. And they understand that Vasudeva, Krishna is the absolute truth. His sarvam iti is everything. And such a soul is very rare. So through all these examples and the statements of Krishna at different places in Bhagavad Gita, we understand that these different processes of yoga that I mentioned, they are meant ultimately for one purpose. There is a commonality in the purpose, but there is a variation in the process. So if someone is fortunate enough to directly accept devotional service, then one need not go through all the other processes. But if someone is not, he's just not getting it. There are people in this world who go on explaining to them that Krishna is a person, Krishna is the absolute truth, and we are all part and parcel of him. People just don't get it. They will not get it. But they will be happy to in doing some philosophical analysis and trying to find out this is made up of this is made up of this, and then through that their intelligence becomes clear. And if they are genuinely searching for the truth, then as Krishna promises that after many, many lifetimes, they will finally come to understand me and surrender to me. Just like if I go and start explaining how an aeroplane works to a class 6th or class 8th child, he will not get it. No matter how hard I try to explain the laws that make an aeroplane function to a student of grade 6 or 7 or 8, he will not get it because he doesn't have the basic physics with him. He has not understood the basic laws of motion and basic understanding of physics, so he can't understand. But if he continues through his education that he is doing now, grade 6, 7th and 8th and 9th and 10th, then he will come to that level. He will come to a level at some point in time after a few years where he will be able to grasp how an aeroplane functions. Similarly, it is expected that all those who are following different paths of yoga, if they are genuinely following it, then it is expected that at some point they will realize and they will come to understand that Krishna is the absolute truth, he is a person, and we are his part and parcel, and we will surrender unto him and engage in his devotional service. So this is such a wonderful thing that Krishna does not leave anybody out of his message. When he is speaking Bhagavad Gita, he's considering all the living entities. He is so merciful. Had he just given only devotional service, only told that okay, patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayakshati tadaham bhaktupayatam prayatatmana, like that, or man manavo mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru, you just surrender to me, worship me, offer me obeisances. Just only these verses, had that been there, then there are many people who will not be able to understand those verses, and then they will have no other path to follow. So Krishna wants to make sure that there is some path for everybody, and everybody will find. So that's why you see Bhagavad Gita is a scripture which is accepted by most of the people. Everybody finds something in there to appreciate. We hear Mahatma Gandhi, even though he was not a devotee, but he found something in Bhagavad Gita. So it is expected that if he continues that way, at some point he will come to devotional service also. There are so many great leaders in India and throughout the world also. There are many leaders who have read Bhagavad Gita and they have always found something which helps evolve their consciousness. So wherever they are, they go from that level to a next level, which is higher than that. So this is what Bhagavad Gita does, provided they are genuine seekers of truth. But if someone has ulterior motive and uses Bhagavad Gita not to search for the truth, but rather he has some ulterior motive and some hidden agenda, and he wants to just use Bhagavad Gita to satisfy his own purpose, then that person will not progress much. He will not be helpful. But someone who is a genuine seeker of truth, one who is genuinely looking for what is absolute truth, he will always find something in Bhagavad Gita which can help take the person from level A to level B, which is higher. So in this particular chapter, action in Krishna consciousness and entitled Karma Yoga. So this Karma Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness, is same as Bhakti Yoga. There is no difference. It's doing the activities in that consciousness where we are doing it for Krishna. If we have that mindset, then that becomes Bhakti Yoga. Some people may perceive it as Karma Yoga, but then once the difference is this, that once one starts doing everything for the pleasure of Krishna, that automatically turns into Bhakti Yoga. And as long as that is not there, then it may remain other things. Sakam karma, nishkam karma, that feeling may be there. Keshwar Prabhu says here that the aim of the analytical study of the material world is to find the soul of existence. This word is very interesting. The soul of existence. So the whole existence that we have around us also has a soul. Just like this body that is there in front of you, there is a soul residing in the body. And there is also super soul residing in the body. Similarly, this world is also a body, the whole universe. And this also has got a soul. This world is not dead, it's alive. And it's functioning by the desire and strength and power of some source. It's not happening all by chance. So that soul of the whole existence is the super soul. Super soul which is present in each and every living entity, or even each and every atom. The super soul is also present in the universe. Krishna, when the universe gets created, the Mahavishnu, he expands himself as Garbhodakshay Vishnu, and from him the universe comes. In one universe he enters, and from him Lord Brahma comes. And then he further expands as Kshirodakshay Vishnu and enters into each and every aspect of the universe. Each and every plant, each and every bird, each and every human being, and each and every atom. And because of his presence as the super soul, everything becomes animate and functions. Otherwise, nature and the living entity by themselves will not have that capacity to function independently of this, independent of the super soul. We are all dependent on him. Only super soul is independent. Super soul, Krishna, is independent. But all the other living entities and the material nature is dependent on him. So trying to find out what is the source of everything, that is the soul of existence. The soul of, like in this body, what is the source ultimately? Is the soul that is there. That soul is making this body animate and function. Once the soul leaves the body is dead, can't do anything. Similarly, the source of the whole universe is Krishna. He is the ashray, the shelter of everything. He is the source of everything. That is called absolute truth. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattah sarvam pravartate. I am the source of everything. Everything emanates from me. So that is the source. So to find out that source, that's what is the purpose of the analytical study, and that is sāṅkhya-yogau. Soul of material world is Vishnu, or the super soul. So devotional service to the Lord entails service to the super soul. So in bhakti yoga, one is engaged in various services. Our process is, one process is to find the root of the tree, and other is to water the root, which we discussed already. The real student of Sankhya philosophy finds the root of the material world. The real student, Srila Prabhupada is saying that, because there are many other so-called followers of Sankhya philosophy, but they are atheists. That is not real Sankhya philosophy that Krishna is talking about here. The real students of Sankhya philosophy, they will find the root of the material world is Vishnu. And then in perfect knowledge, they will engage themselves in the service of the Lord. That is natural result of finding the source. If we find, like suppose, a child is lost or separated from the parent, and all the time trying to find out who is my parent in whatever way, giving advertisement in the newspapers or trying to find people by inquiring from others, whatever way, trying to search who is my father. And finally, he finds his father. So what will he do? He will lovingly reciprocate with the father. The story doesn't end with just finding the source. Like suppose, just this example I gave, a child is desperately looking for who is, from where did I come? Trying to find out who is my father and mother. And in some way he finds out his parents. Then what will he do? Will he stop there and end there? Okay, my search is now over. Now I go back to my other life or do something else? No. Once he has found, he found his parents. He will live with the parents, reciprocate with the parent, love the parents, serve the parents. That's a natural result, natural consequence of this, of finding the source or finding the relationship, connection. So similarly, a Sankhya yogi, if he has been successful in finding the source of everything, and that is Super Soul and Vishnu, then it's natural for him to engage in the service of the Super Soul. He can't do anything else. He can't do anything else. Like anyone who has understood that Krishna is the source of everything, he is the absolute truth, he will have no other choice but to engage in his service. This is Krishna. And if someone is not able to do that, it means he has actually not understood what is absolute truth. Anyone who understands the absolute truth properly will have no other work to do, because he will understand that everything else is meaningless, and the only duty now I have is to serve Krishna, engage in his service for his pleasure. That will be the only thing left. So that's what Prabhupada is saying, that if he has properly done, then in perfect knowledge, he will engage himself in the service of the Lord. Therefore, in a sense, there is no difference between the two, because the aim of both is Vishnu. Those who do not know the ultimate end say that the purposes of Sankhya and Karma Yoga are not the same. So those who do not know, those who are not very intelligent, like bālāḥ, like children, their intelligence has not developed to that level. They may call, oh, this path is different. You follow this path, I follow this path. Our path is fine, this is fine. Like people talk in such a confusing manner in the world today, because they are not so intelligent and nobody has given them a proper understanding of these things. But those who are intelligent, they will not differentiate between Sankhya and Karma. But the one who is learned knows the unifying aim in these different processes. In all these different processes, there is an aim, there is a goal. An intelligent person is able to see that. What is actually the purpose of all these different yoga systems? Intelligent person is capable of perceiving that. So once a person understands that Krishna is the absolute truth, the super soul is the source of everything, naturally one will engage in service. So from this, whatever we discussed today, we have tried to look at it by various examples from the material, our surroundings, our education system, with the example of children's education, and the example that Keshwar Prabhu gave about the root of the tree. Through all this, we have tried to understand that actually the Sāṅkhya-yoga, or for that matter, not just Sāṅkhya-yoga, but any other yoga systems, all of them, they ultimately have the same purpose, and that's the common purpose, is to bring everybody to the lotus feet of Krishna. That is the only purpose of the whole. This whole creation is meant for only one purpose. This whole universe is there just to bring these souls to the shelter of Krishna, either in this life or in the next life or in the next life or after 1 million lives. But that purpose remains the same throughout. The purpose of creation doesn't change. This is the purpose of whole creation, and same purpose of this. All the yoga systems also have the same purpose, to bring these living entities closer to Krishna. Let them connect with Krishna. That is the only purpose of this different yoga systems and the purpose of the universe. So we as devotees should be very clear that there are so many yoga processes, but this is called like a yoga ladder. There are different rungs on a ladder, but all of them are meant to take a person from the lowest level to the topmost level. So similarly, all these different yoga systems, they take us through step by step, ultimately to the destination of the spiritual abode, the spiritual world. So with this, I think I can conclude. If anyone has any question, we have 2 minutes left, then we can take that.
Thank you, Prabhu. If anyone has any questions, you can unmute yourself and you can ask questions. I like the very clear examples you gave us. They were very excellent. Guru Prabhu has a question. You can unmute, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much for such an excellent detailed class. Just I wanted to clear a minor point. Both karma sannyas and this karma yoga, purpose is both same, both leading to the ultimate super soul Krishna. But this karma sannyas is a longer way. I think it is more time taking, and karma yoga is a straightforward way. So it is preferable to have this karma yoga over this karma sannyas.
That's exactly Krishna tells in verse number 2 of this chapter. The karma sannyas is renouncing the activities. So not performing any worldly activities, that is called karma sannyas. I have taken sannyas, so a person does not engage in business, does not engage in growing any agricultural food or any kind of worldly activities the person does not engage in. That is called karma sannyas.
Yes,
but karma sannyas does not necessarily mean that the person is connected with Krishna. He has just renounced. He is not engaging in whatever. Why he is not engaging? Because he understands that if we engage in worldly activities, then there is going to be a reaction. So I will remain bound by those reactions. So it's better not to do these activities. That is the understanding of a person who takes karma sannyas. Karma yoga is a person who has this understanding that this world actually belongs to Krishna and everything is connected with Krishna. So I can perform activities for his pleasure as long as he has that understanding and he does it for the satisfaction of Krishna. So this is performing activities, karma, in yoga. That is karma yoga. In yoga means in connection with Krishna. So that is called karma yoga. So Krishna tells in verse number 2 that of course both of them are good and both of them will lead to liberation, and the karma sannyas alone may take much longer time
Yes, yes,
Come,
yes.
karma yoga, and that thing is mentioned in chapter 12 when
Oh.
Krishna describes about bhakti yoga. There he talks about the impersonal path and various other paths, and he says that these paths are also good. They will also give liberation, but they may be very troublesome and may take a long time. So similarly here, he says that both are good, both will lead to liberation. But out of the two, he says, out of the two, karma yoga vishishyate. Means karma yoga is definitely superior. Because it is direct process, it's a shorter process. And there is not much risk involved in that. Because one is connected with the Krishna. In the other process, one is trying to grow on one's own strength and does not have the superior support. So there is always a risk of falling down.
Yes.
So definitely karma yoga is superior to karma sannyas, and that Krishna says in verse number 2.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you. So if there is no other question, then I thank all of you for coming together to hear from this Bhagavad Gita. Thank you all for your association. We can end here. Thank you very much. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai.
Yeah.